Great. All right, we will start with our Sphota theory. Do you know anything about Sphota theory? Did you hear about this before? No. It's a linguistic theory which is fundamental to general linguistics. It the first mentionings of Spotayana was a great scholar in Nirukta already. So it was a tradition. And then later, for the first time, Sphota theory was formulated by Patanjali in his Mahabhashya, 200 BC, who wrote several volumes on Panini Ashtadhyayi. This is all linguistic tradition or philosophy of language. Patanjali was a philosopher of language, and linguist and philosopher of language. So I will project there. Can you see my? Yeah, you see it most probably.
I have a question here, Vladimir.
Yes.
So when you say Patanjali, I've heard, and I want to know your thoughts as well. They say like Janaka is not one person, right? There was a Janaka, was a lineage like that. I've heard people telling about Patanjali as well. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, India has this tradition of signing with one great name. Like, there are many Kalidasa writings. Like, there are more than 100 dramas signed by Kalidasa. But I think originally maybe there are few there, dozen dramas of real Kalidasa. The rest were signing it because this kind of, copyright or name promoting in India was always considered to be an egoistic kind. Vyasa, for example, compiled all the Puranas, 18 Mahapuranas, and Mahabharata and all the Vedas. Vyasa is the author. So what can you do with this? Yeah? So there are many authors, but they don't want to show up or to shine through or to be remembered or, this kind of thing. So we have generic names, as you said, so to say. Janaka is there, and we can find Janaka and Vasishtha and Vishwamitra in many different stories, in many different periods, in Mahabharata, in Ramayana, and so on, in Puranas, in the Veda. So you just don't know where they are historically because it's not important. Historicity in India is very different from the West. In the West, they wanted to keep lineage of the kings. In India, it was less important, if at all. It was more like an infinite and eternal kind of history has to be written. Something more fundamental, something more Vedic, less to the point. Who wants to know who lived when and how? And because of that, of course, India lost its kind of credibility on the Western market of thinking. Because of this imprecision with names, with dates. But I admire India for that, actually. They were looking for the truth rather than for the, kind of records of the events.
I agree. Thank you so much for the explanation.
It's very typical for India. Great. So, fundamentals of this theory. What is this Sphota? Sphota is from root sput, to flower, to open up, to disclose. It's disclosure of meaning. How we receive or perceive the meaning of the word or of of the sentence, text, what is really the meaning, yeah, which we perceive? What do we understand? What is understanding? What is comprehension? Suppose you hear some story and you understand. What does it mean really? What is it, this understanding? It's, it's tangible, but it is not something you can put into your pocket or uh, it is an amazing thing, understanding, comprehension. So the meaning is kind of intangible assets, let us say. Tangible assets are the words, texts, but the meanings are intangible um, values. They use this in the marketing. Intangible assets. Yeah? Google, for example, is intangible assets because it creates some values in terms of capacity of what? What is understanding really? If we understand this, we will understand Sphota theory. So Indian philosophy of language was going very deep into this matter, trying to figure out how do we understand the meaning. And so they arrived at this Sphota theory. The greatest, of course, uh, philosopher of language is, after Mahabhashya of Patanjali, is Bhartihari. And it is Bhartihari who is considered to be the father of this formulation of Sphota theory in his Vakya Padiya. It is taught all over the world. This Vakya Padiya is a unique uh, treatise, and I would recommend to find somewhere the translation and read it once for yourself, just to have a touch of it, because there is nothing better ever written in the linguistic terms about the meaning of the, and not only the meaning, there's more. According to Bhartrihari, the whole world is one big text, Shabda Brahman. And from this one text, we derive certain elements, certain focal point of meaning. Yeah? And those focal points of meaning are our sentences, words, and so on. So we spoke about this already a bit, how artificial intelligence tried to capture the meaning. For example, they explain to the computer what is the book. The book is the thing. Yeah? And computer asks, what is the thing? Computer cannot think comprehensively. It can think only apprehensively. You tell me this is this, and this is that, and that is that, and that is that. It cannot think in terms of how it relates, what it does to, it doesn't have that comprehensive cognition behind. And it's very difficult to explain to it anything, because once you start explaining, the more you explain, the more is left to be explained. So the book is the thing, it is for reading. What is reading? Reading man, who is man? Now you are starting to explain everything once man is there, and reading, and eyes, and light, and letters, and language. And everything has to be explained to computer because it doesn't know how it relates. So he knows only the form of thing, but not the name. So the name is associated in computer's head with the form only, not with the action, not with the. Um, it does not recognize what can be done beyond that what it knows. Yeah? It doesn't have that comprehension. For example, somebody was explaining me recently to me that how they introduce the idea of chair to computer, that computer will recognize that that is chair. So they make like thousands and hundreds of thousands of photos of different chairs from different angles and put it into the computer, that maybe by chance he will catch some element of it and will recognize the chair, which will be differently made. So they do not understand the concept of the chair, that it is to sit. It is as simple as that. It is for sitting. And for sitting is very difficult to explain to a computer. Anyhow, this is the, I'm carried away a little bit with this. So Patanjali, a new approach to the word. What Patanjali does is quite interesting. He deviates from the Vedic understanding of the word. In his Mahabhashya, the commentary on Panini, he says that in order to know the meaning of a word, one has to go not to the learned linguist, but to the marketplace. For the meaning of the word in its natural usage differs from linguistic one. And we know this. Yeah? We are speaking language in a very different fashion. It's more like a fashion, and our meanings are all shifted in our spoken languages. There are many slangs also, where the meanings are totally differently used. Yeah? There are many words which are used by mannerism, in a manner of some kind, not in the conceptual meaning. So Patanjali points out to a different value of speech which had not been focused before. In Sanskrit, Sanskrit is an amazing language because it does not do that mannerism. It does not have it. It deals with the fundamental concepts, the fundamental meanings, which are related to the etymological system. It has flexibility within that realm, but not within the usage of somebody, ignorant usage of the word, which becomes like a nickname and gets stuck somewhere in the usage of or parlance of some kind. So which had not been focused on before, and the communicative aspect. And yes, that is the communicative aspect of the language. So communication becomes major kind of characteristic of language in the mind of the mental structure. Notice that this shift from the mythical to the mental structure, which took place approximately that time, 500 BC, and so Patanjali fits into that vision very well. He introduces this mental analysis of the word. So by that analysis, he arrives at this new meaning of communicative aspect. And the life of a signifier in relation to the signified is a very, very approximate. It is not really fixed with the system of etymons. We are drifting away from the origins of Brahmanaspati's speech, Brihaspati's word. You remember we spoke about this, Brihaspati and Indra. And this is from Mahabhashya, this story actually. It is Patanjali who is speaking about this, that Indra actually invented grammar, created all those possibilities of shifting, drifting away in application to a particular context. If in Brihaspati's word, speech, the meaning and the sound were totally fixed because there was total identity, total authenticity of the context in which the meaning could be used, then in the Indra's world, it is not so. You can apply the word to any context. Yeah? Where it is not fitting. And that creates what we understand as communicative aspect. So we are deviating from the meanings. We are flexible. We create jokes. We create misalignments. And these misalignments create the whole, space of all kind of new relations and misalignments. And that altogether we call culture. It's very specific. We are away from the truth, but away from the truth in a specific manner. And that specificity creates all the colors, varieties, hues of our relations, all the jokes which only we understand. There are many jokes which cannot be translated, for example, from one language to another, as we know it as translators. Yeah? Especially if you lived in Soviet Union, for example. There are many statements which you cannot even imagine what it means. Yeah? But there were many such kind of a lot of research in that way. So from one setting of language to another, it's impossible to translate. So the simplest meaningful unit. This was the major topic of Patanjali. He was always thinking how to arrive at what has meaning and what doesn't have meaning in language. We're talking about language. So Patanjali discussing this topic of simplest meaningful units, which is similar to the modern understanding of linguists. So this is his statement, anarthakaha to varnaha. So varnas have no meaning. Varnas as the alphabetic, yeah, kakha gaghanga. So kakha gaghanga has no meaning, but if you combine them into the meaningful word unit, so then word will have a meaning. So according to him, phonemes are meaningless, but phonemes build the morphema, and morphema has meaning. Yeah? Morphema is a word. So for him, the single, simple, meaningful unit is the word.
What are phonemes, Vladimir?
It's what we call alphabet, A, B, C, D. So
Got it.
R doesn't have meaning, but when it is in the word, then the word has meaning. So it's like he says, he compares it to the chariot. He says that all the elements of the chariot by themselves do not express the chariot meaning. So the wheel will not express the chariot, the bolts, the wood with which it is made and carved, nothing makes sense of chariot. But when you put it together, the chariot is, the new meaning arrives. So this is his understanding, which is very unique and interesting, and actually general linguistics nowadays in modern times believes exactly in this formula, that the phonemes do not have meaning, they have not meaningless, whereas the words have meaning. So he takes three words, kupa, supa, and yupa, and he says in these three words only k, s, and y are different. And so if that would be so, then k, s, y would have a meaning, but it doesn't have a meaning. So k, s, y is not really meaningful, but that creates a difference in meaning in kupa, supa, and yupa. It's a simple thinking. Yeah? But I can object to it, and I object immediately because what he does here, he separates k, s, y, which is not possible to pronounce because consonants, he thinks now in terms of letters. Yeah, because it's a mental structure, you can separate it. But in terms of writing, you see, if you are pronouncing it, these should be syllables. It should be ku, su, and yu. And these you have to compare, ku, su, yu. And not k, su, yu, and upa, upa, upa is the same. The root is ku, and the root is su, and the root is yu. And pi, okay, it is like a suffix or extension of the root, doesn't matter. But it's amazing because root ku and su and yu have meanings. And they build the words kupa, supa, and yupa. So ku, as you know, it is, we have this cavity, kubok, cup, Coop, cup, interesting. You will see all this which has hollow inside, yeah? And this is Koopa. Koopa is the well, which has a hollow inside into which you can pour either water or liquid or anything else you can put inside. Cave, cavity, all this Indo-European root. Ku. Also, ku is to call, to create sound, because sound you create in the hollow. So this is the major root from which this word. Su is interesting, is to distill, to press out, to actually to make kind of like they press soma. Soma is from this root. Yeah? Soup is a good word. That liquid, which is yeah, it's the same etymology. So and yu is to unite, to connect, to tie up. Yupa is the pillar to which the sacrificial animal was tied up. Yeah. So it is something which is holding you two different opposites, two movements in one. So you can see from here, yoga is extension, huge, yes, and so on. Yud, we spoke about this root. So if you analyze the roots, you will see that Patanjali is totally wrong. So the meanings of the phonemes, of the varnas, k, sa, ya, there is no varna k, there is varna ka or ku or ki. Yeah? So to take varnas as letters is a big mistake. Varnas are not letters. And you know how letters were introduced by Greeks? Because Greeks invented the alphabet with letters, because they couldn't read the Hebrew scriptures, which Hebrews were the same language as Sanskrit. They write in syllables. They think in syllables. You know? They don't think in letters. And when they wrote in syllables, they were omitting vowels. And omitting vowels, Greeks could not read because they were not adepts of Hebrew language. So they needed vowels. So they started to invent the alphabet with letters, not with syllables. And that's why we have A, B, C, D, yes? Interestingly, where is that E there? It's not even there. And what is, F? Where is that E there? So this is altogether a different, they cannot pronounce F, B, D, S. Yeah? You need a vowel. There is no way to pronounce the consonants without vowels. That's why syllabic thinking is a true thinking, the right way of doing things. So this kind of treatment of language which Patanjali did, Kusuyu, is actually a wrong one, in my view.
Vladimir, if I may ask, can you explain a bit more what would be syllabic thinking?
So Hindi also thinks in terms of syllables. Syllabic is a ka, kha, ga, gha, nga, everywhere ah. You need ah to say ka. Huh?
Yes. Yes.
You cannot say k without vocal cords. So some vocal cords have to follow, and that is the syllable. Syllable always have a vowel with consonant or without consonant. So without consonant is a is a syllable, ka is a syllable. You must have a vowel to have a syllable.
Got it.
So kusuyu without vowels are not really letters and not really varnas. They are letters written. You can write it separately with viram, ku with viram.
Yeah. Okay. But sorry, so going on to the next piece, you said Hebrew thinks like Sanskrit, it's syllabic. But if it was syllabic, why would they drop the vowels? And why did the Greeks have that challenge?
Yeah, they dropped it because they wanted to hide the meaning of their texts.
Oh.
the vowels were written on the top, so they kind of omitted them because they knew the text and they didn't want other people to read them. They were sacred for them.
Oh my, okay.
And yeah, well, this is the explanation given in the linguistics, how Greeks arrived at alphabetic thinking. Actually, Greeks started their culture, their fully fledged culture, with mental structure of consciousness. Yeah? It was Socrates. They shifted away from the bards, those ancient singers, rishis. For example, Plato already says we don't want any singers of the, of the truth.
Yeah, I've read that in the Republic.
Yeah, absolutely. To banish them out of the, because they are just confusing us. So that is the beginning of mental structure, fully fledged. Yeah. The rationality of everything has to be there. And Socrates starts with this also, that I don't need to know from rishis or from those bards how the world was made. I can figure out myself, measure it, weigh it, yeah, think about it. This is his new way. You yourself can discover the world. This is the mental structure. By the way, it happened 500 BC onwards in all lands. In India, the same way.
Yeah, that's part of the mythological thing of consciousness rising at the same time across the world, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something amazing. I mean, I always think about this. It was like one impulse, and through the whole world it went through 500 BC. It's like Buddhism comes, Jainism, all these great, revolutionaries. Against. So I described already this Kupa Supa and Yupa, but I don't go into it. So Patanjali, the single entity of which Patanjali speaks, should belong to the origins of the word, to the etymon, but he takes the latter out of it. I spoke about this already. Now, beginning of Sphota theory. Patanjali, for the first time, proposes three different approaches to the studies of speech utterance: meaningful word, Devani, the uttered sound, and Sphota Shabda, an impression of the sound in the mind. This is the beginning, the split. For the first time, we approach sound not as an uttered sound, but as an imprint of the sound. So the meaningful word is perceived through the articulate sound, Devani, by the listener. This was the beginning of Sphota theory. So it's interesting that how we hear the sounds. When you listen to my speech, what you do unconsciously, you re-articulate my words in your apparatus, in your mind, let us say. Some people even move their mouth when you speak. They kind of follow you because there are such people. They can also finish your sentence. You stop there and they will finish what you think. It's amazing because this re-articulation is to take place. That's how we understand the languages. If I will speak to you in Russian now or Ukrainian, you would not, or Norwegian, you would not follow me because you cannot re-articulate them. So in the mind, this re-articulation is Sphota. Sphota Shabda. So we are not listening to the sounds actually, we are listening to the articulations of the sounds. We are listening to those articulations we recognize, and by that we rebuild the language within our mind. This view...
Vladimir, sorry, is Sphota actually a Sanskrit word?
Yes, from sput, from flowering, opening, like the flower opens the petals. Burst into, disclose. Yeah?
Okay.
With,
Got it.
with two, cerebral too. So Bhartihari picks up from Patanjali, and Bhartihari is approximately 200 AD already, kind of 400 years later, developing the thought of Patanjali and makes his survey of the single entity. And he says that the meaning is actually not expressed even by the words, but by the sentences. Vakya padiya, about vakya, about the sentences, and pada, word. Vakya padiya. It's interesting, for him, the full sentence is disclosing the meaning and not the word. If I tell you a tree, for example, tree, you will say, what tree? Doesn't make sense. It has to have something, some explanation of it. And I will say, the tree is beautiful. Okay, now you got it. So the sentence is actually, for Bhartrihari, is the meaningful unit. And sometimes it's a funny part. That's what I was playing in the linguistic department. You can, you're still waiting. You see, for this sometimes, and I didn't finish yet the sentence, and I'm saying so many things in between, and you're still waiting for that sometimes to be finished. Sometimes it's very funny because some people are talking in the way, when they start their speech and then they drift to, or they remember something on the side, and I'm going on, and you're still waiting for my sentence to be finished, and they can forever go on. But besides this view, and if you, on the other hand, would no, what? No, there is nothing said. So many words. So this is a very good proof for for Bhartihari's views. That sentence is a meaningful unit. You have to put a dot at the end. If you don't, then the sentence is not finished, and you do not know what was the meaning of that message, because each meaning is a message of some kind. It's something you are supposed to say, or to convey, or to express. So there is this distinction between Sphota and Devani. We already spoke about this. I will send you the PowerPoint presentation, or you have the whole write-up on it, by the way. Maybe that would be even better because I took it from there. And the basics of this is that the Dhvani, the articulated sound which we hear outside, is not the sound we are listening to. We are listening to the articulation, to the Sphota sound. So here there's the distinction. Sphota is that which is to be manifested, and the Dhvani is manifesting. So this word, this sound which I am articulating, is actually manifesting something which is to be manifested, that particular articulation. And my pronunciation can be wrong, or can be wrongly pronounced, or you will not hear it totally, but you will reconstruct in your mind that which is to be manifested, and will understand me anyhow. And if I would have very heavy accent in English, you would still understand me. So you're not listening to the outer sound. You're listening to that real, true sound which is behind it, that articulatory device sound, which is which is the norm for you to recognize the word. So Prakrit Advani and Vaikrit Advani, we are splitting the hair here. The Devani also has the element of Sphota in it, which belongs to the articulation, and Vaikrita, which sounds outside with all the proximities. I'm not even going into it. I'm going forward because I have more to say today. Sphota is a cognition of truth, of the truth. Also, I will leave it for you to read. I have much more to say. So Sphota theory or disclosure of meaning has several levels. Varna Sphota in the Sphota theory, which is after Bhartihari, there was the whole tradition which ended up with Kashmirian Shaivism of Abhinava Gupta, and so they are all referring to Bhartihari and theory of Sphota. We will come to Tantric vision at the end, or next time, I do not remember when, but we will refer to Bhartihari again. So the whole Sphota theory is amazing because the disclosure of meaning is not happening only on the level of the sentence or on the level of the word, but also on the level of Varna, which we do not register. We are kind of incorporating Varnas into the words, into the sentences, but the disclosure, recognition of the meaning is happening also on the Varnic level, on the level of the syllables.
Varna as, sorry, Vladimir, Varna as in color? Is that what we're saying?
Varnamala is like kakha gaganga. This is Varna.
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it.
So we have phonology, morphology, and syntax. Actually, in the normal studies of language, phonology deals with varnas, morphology with padas, and syntax with vakyas, yes, with texts. So here the list of all possible Sphota theories in the Indian tradition: Varna Sphota, Pada Sphota, Vakya Sphota, Akhanda Pada Sphota, Undivided Word. This is an amazing, we will come to it in a minute. Akhanda Vakya Sphota, also an amazing theory. Undivided sentence. It is believed that we have limited number of undivided sentences by which we operate in our mind. We can say only certain things. Yeah? They're limited in numbers. Varna Jati Sphota, Pada Jati Sphota, and Vakya Jati Sphota. We will look into it now. So Varna Sphota is defined as denotative, Vachaka, when a single phoneme or a stem or an affix is found to be so, and therefore the Varna Sphota is taking place. For example, when you change from one word to another, and that is meaningful because only one suffix is changing or prefix is changing, like Satyam, Asatyam. Yeah? That A is Varna Sphota. It gives you the meaning, shift in the meaning. This theory utilizes the analysis of from bottom to top, which is mainly found in grammatical treatises such as Panini's descriptive grammar. Varna Sphota has its own difficulties in the immediate application to the analysis of the word, especially when the synthetic forms of the word are examined, such as, for example, ghatena, with the pot. So ghata is the pot, ghatena, where is that ena is coming from? Yes, this is synthetic type. Sanskrit is a synthetic type. Hindi is analytic type. Yeah, you don't have any more that. You will have kebareme, kepas, and so on. You will have many different elements, particles, which you will add to the word, which is not changing. Here the word is changing, flexema is changing. So this is the difficulty of this Varna Sphota. But it is still there. Satyam, Asatyam, Padasphota. Padasphota maintains that the finished word, being a unique entity, conveys the meaning, and the division into the morphological components, such as suffixes, stems, root, prefix, and so on, does not occur when the speaker or hearer perceives it as meaningful. We are not listening to the prefix or suffix unless we emphasize it. Yeah? We may emphasize. Yeah? I would like to reconstruct. So here I have that as meaningful, yeah? Because I'm looking for the continuation of this or deconstruct, yeah? Decompose. So I will be looking for the continuation of my thought, which is within the prefix. So this theory claims that the text can be described by listening to the words and their meanings, as well as by perceiving the relation between them in the syntactic structure of the sentence. It is by listening to the meaning of each word and linking it with another word that the meaning of the sentence can be understood. But since the meaning of the sentence is the last to be grasped, then the Padasphota theory is found insufficient in the description of the perception of meaning and leads to the next level of synthesis, Vakya-Sphota. That's what Bhartihari arrived at. Yeah?
Vladimir, just one question.
Yes.
You talked about the Varna Sphota, about Satyam and Asatyam, right? When you talked about the Padasphota, you talked about construct and reconstruct. Maybe it is me. Can you, for me, I'm not able to differentiate both of them as two different things. If Satyam and Asatyam is Varnaspota, why can't construct and reconstruct also be a Varnaspota?
You got it right. I meant exactly that. That element of the word can also be meaningful. Yeah? Even prefix can be meaningful if I emphasize it. So it is not only that we are not aware of the prefixes, suffixes in the word that the theory says, but we can be also aware if I emphasize it. That's my critique of Padasphota.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yes, and Vakya-Sphota we already touched upon. It maintains that the sentence is a unique entity which conveys the meaning. A sentence or a text which itself is a unit of meaning. Sometimes we listen to the whole text and it has the meaning, like Savitri and Satyavan. You know? And at the end of the story, you got it. Yeah? So not only one sentence, not only one word, but the whole symphony, the whole musical composition at the end leaves that sense of meaning. So now, interestingly, that all these meanings are interwoven. Yeah? The vowels, the varnas, then the words, prefixes, if you emphasize, they start shining through the tapestry like a specific color accent. And then the whole sentence, sentence upon sentence, chapter upon chapter, the whole story at the end also has a meaning. This is how actually the whole universe is built, in meaningful relations. Everything is interrelated.
So, Vladimir, would it be right to say that what we are really, this does have some connection to evolution, isn't it? Where we are moving from neurological things to cognitive things. And it seems to me that it's really when you move from Varna to Pada to Vakya, you're dealing with the complexity that the human being is confronting. Would that be a correct assumption?
Absolutely, I think so. Well, we are dealing only with this is about the meaning. Yeah? What is meaning? Meaningful relations. which build up bigger meanings, bigger entities. Yes. So the whole universe is built like this. If you look at our physical reality, yeah, there is this cup, there's this table, there's this computer, me sitting in this house on the earth, on this South Carolina, yeah, Fountain Inn close to Greenville. And so the whole continent is here holding that ground in the ocean, between the oceans, Pacific and Atlantic. Earth, yeah, and then Earth, the solar system, everything is inbuilt within. If there would be something wrong with the sun or with the alignment of the moon, this would not be possible. The relations would be different. All relations, from the smallest to the biggest, are interwoven. All the meanings are supported by the bigger meanings support smaller meanings. This asatyam in the text is totally meaningful to the bigger meanings because this is highlighted by all other vowels and all other varnas as different, and that difference is acknowledged and registered and meaningfully interwoven into the tapestry. So this is not by itself. It's acknowledged by all other differences.
Vladimir, can I ask you a question, please?
Yes. I was waiting for you, Praveen.
I think this was a beautiful presentation, Vladimir. I have a lot of questions, but probably I want to start from the beginning question. So in slide number 2, Vladimir, you had, of course, you had mentioned this drift from the Vedic thinking. Patanjali had drifted. So am I right to say, so my question is, what is the Vedic thinking of language? It is the system of etymons that you're referring to. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So
yes, it's exactly that. That for the Vedic rishis, the word was a living entity. It wasn't some token to know something, in the usage and communication in the marketplace. It's not that. I'm not learning about the slang or jargon somewhere, or varieties of usages of subtleties of languages outside in the world. I'm not looking for this pragmatic usage of the word. Yeah? And the Vedic was never pragmatic in that sense. It was maybe spiritually the most pragmatic usage, but spiritually it referred to its own system of etymons. And those system of etymons was actually living, vibrating, generating something within our consciousness, a perception of a higher reality, was actually building it within our consciousness. So, and then there was a drift towards the word as a token and not as a creator of the concept of the thought, but as a token of the thought. Thought is the first, yeah? And the word is just following there to point out what the concept was. If in the Vedas the concepts are produced by these sounds, by the words are being created to produce the meanings or the concepts, then in this later time it's just the opposite.
So that is the Vachya Vachaka that you're referring to, and which is what you say is it's a drift in thinking in the general linguistic theory. Okay.
Yes, and actually Sphota theory appeared in the time of the mental structure, because then we noticed that the word and what it denotes are two different things. We noticed that there is Vachaka and Vachya, was signified and signifier. By the way, it was taken by Saussure, Ferdinand de Saussure, you know most probably this name. He is considered to be the father of general linguistics in the West. He took this Vachya and Vachaka and called it signified and signifier, which is the exact translation from bhartihari. But he never mentioned bhartihari in his. So they think that he invented, finally arrived at some understanding of the language. Yeah? And it was already there in Indian tradition.
So Vladimir, thanks for that. So my second question is, I have heard of Sphota theory, which is also called as probably Sphotavad, right? I have also heard of another theory called Varnavad. So am I right to say that Varnavad is the system of etymons?
Yeah, this is called Varnaspota theory. Yeah, it is. Or Varnavadas, or Varnaspota Vada. Yeah? Vada is always a kind of theory, yeah? So to say. So you can use it anywhere. So can be, yes, Spota Vada.
But I think this theory was referring to in a different way. While Spotavad refers to the presence of spota to bring out the meaning, I think what I understood was Varnavad was referring to more the meaning manifesting from syllables themselves, not necessarily with the help of a spota. So, are we right to say that Varnavad was referring to the original Vedic thinking?
Maybe I'm not totally sure in which context it is used, but
Okay.
any Varnavada, Varnaspotavada, for me, it is about the meaning of the sounds when they are articulated in a particular. Here they are taking it in a bit wrong way, that they tie it up to the morphema. Yeah, they want that to be connected with the word anyhow. Only you emphasize it. I believe that Varnaspota is whenever it is articulated with meaning, it has its meaning. Yeah? If I articulate with meaning, E with meaning, then it will have that meaning.
But we are saying that Vedic thinking is much more and much more than Varnavad or Spotavad.
Yes.
At okay.
Because why more? Because it is here it is a part of the whole system of how the meaning is revealed. It's already a mental approach, yeah, dissecting or analyzing in bits and pieces. In the Veda, it is not like that. It's more experienced by consciousness.
Thank you. The third question is, Vladimir, I mean, we are speaking about, you began the session by asking what is meaning and how do we comprehend it? Then naturally, that line of thinking takes us to the question, okay, meaning is comprehended and comprehension takes up mind. So then the question is, what is really the mind? Is the question, and how does mind relate with the sound? So can we say that to understand meaning we have to define what is the entity manas and how is it interacting with shabda or the word, and then only meaning can be understood. Probably we'll have to introduce more entities like purusha and all of that. Am I thinking in the right way?
Yeah, this is always a right way to ask questions instead of giving answers. So you're constantly, it's fine to question everything, and especially such fundamentals as meaning. I tried to actually to show that meaning is very complex, and it is not. It is on each level. Yeah. And I'm just taking the text, like on the level of Varna, on the level of Pada, on the level of the Vakya, and finally on the level of the text. And the whole text, the whole cosmos is one text, which supports each of the elements within this tapestry as unique. And the relations between them is the meaning. That's why meaning cannot be caught easily. Understanding, it cannot be defined. We know that we understood, but we don't know what it is. You don't know what understanding is, really. How can you define understanding?
Because I think when somebody makes a sentence and there are 100 people listening to that particular sentence, I think all 100 could come up with their own 100 different meanings. So then the question is, then earlier, so I'm connecting this to earlier what you said, that meaning is always understood in oneness. So I'm just extending this and asking, can we say that when I'm connected with you in the same bhava, then I can understand you?
Well, yeah, well, it's difficult to understand the other person because you have your own context. You build your own oneness, unique partial oneness within the bigger oneness. And within that context, which is your unique oneness within the bigger oneness, you receive any input and find its place, and then you say, yes, you understand. But you may understand totally differently from the person who was talking to you.
Yeah.
And that's
So
what Mother says. Mother says we understand each other in the wrong context. We don't understand each other. We don't listen to each other, really. To understand the other person, she says we have to stop every preconceived understanding, remove our context, and rise above, high above, and from there see the message, the intention of the person, what he wants to say, not what he says, but what he intends to say.
I think I was already getting into the rasa theory and other things, but I think the idea of oneness was very beautiful, Vladimir.
Right.
I mean, that really resonates with me on ultimately how we can understand.
In our communication, we communicate by messages. If somebody says to you something, he says for something, he wants to communicate something. And some people speak without communication, any message. They just reflect upon reality, seemingly. But if you go deeper, you will find that they actually want to say something. But that ability to hear, to listen deeply, and to find the message is to find the intention of the speaker. We had in our course a very interesting, in our course in linguistic department, the special course on the meaning in the context, how it was, presupposition. You know, presupposition is a very interesting thing. It is that which is before you express something. What do you want to say? For example, I will give you an example. It's a good, very direct example. Teacher comes to the classroom. Maybe we already looked into it. I do not know. It's from our course. Teacher comes to the classroom. Students are sitting there and he says, Kamala will go to Chennai today. What does he say actually? Just imagine the situation. We are all sitting, students, the teacher comes and says, Vladimir will go to Chennai today. What do you gather from this?
You're traveling.
Okay. What else?
That the teacher wishes to
Very good.
impose or influence himself onto the other person in some fashion.
Yes. What else? There's much more, actually. Very good. We are tapping into comprehension now, yeah, which computer
Maybe you
cannot.
have, maybe you want to achieve a task, and for that you want to travel to Chennai.
Very good. There is some task. The travel has to be done for something to be done. Good.
Or
Or
you
to
want
meet,
to.
Huh?
or to meet someone going to Chennai for a purpose.
Yes, there are many more things to hidden behind. Yes, meeting, doing, bringing, yeah, connecting, or just resting. Maybe it's a.
Or maybe you want to say something even more deeper.
But what? Yes, that is you are already going beyond. But within the context of the classroom, within this, what you actually already know, not what you don't know, what you gather from this statement. I will tell you.
But probably also, Vladimir, then we need to know what preceded this statement.
Very good. What preceded this statement? What does it mean?
What was the context? What was the larger context in which this statement was made? What was the largest? What is the larger forum? Who is the audience to which the statement is made?
Very good. Closer, warmer.
And who is the largest community to which this statement
Very
is
good.
made?
So the classroom sitting there, all the children, and teacher comes and says, Vladimir will go to Chennai today. What does it really mean? It means that the whole classroom knows about the dispute and the decision which is to be made somewhere by the teacher, and now the decision is proclaimed to the classroom. The choice was made. Somebody else will not go to Chennai today, but Vladimir will go. There was a dispute behind. This is presupposition. How do we know? Because teacher would not say that way otherwise. Yeah? He would explain the context. He would not say this to the classroom if the context was not clear. Very good, Praveen. You got it. Context in which it is pronounced. So that all hidden behind, that somebody will go, somebody will not go to the, because of the decision was made somewhere by the committee or by someone or by teacher himself, that and what will happen next is another post position and not presupposition. In presupposition, it is that which led to this statement. Why do I say what I say now to you? This is the question. Why suddenly I got this idea to speak about this?
This is already we are dealing with pragmatics. Am I right, Vladimir? In the correct?
Yeah, pragmatics. Yeah, you're stepping into pragmatics. What for it is all done, but in presupposition, it is something. It's like intention. What, where it is arriving from, or the reason of the statement. Yes, it is within the field of pragmatics altogether. Yes. Great. So this is the topic of what is meaning. You see, meaning has many more. And when we read, for example, Savitri, and this is something interesting, I am always listening to that intention, what Sri Aurobindo wants to say, not what he says, but what he wants to say. And that is the meaning. That is the very gold. Yeah. For example, it was the hour before the gods awake. Why does he say this at the beginning? It was the hour. Or let me say something like, all is too little that the world can give. Its power and knowledge are the gifts of time, and cannot fill the spirit's sacred thirst. So he builds something, but why does he say? Because what he will say, everything, he builds on this foundation now, on this quest, on this empty. He creates the space within us, which he will fill with his canto. And it will all come straight to our comprehension, which we cannot define. Can you define this comprehension, of this verse?
The only thing I understand from your sessions is that comprehension is really possible only by identity. That the subject and object have to become one. So Vladimir, so based on this, for me also, the meaning is also when, it's really understood when the emotions are resonating, or in the rasa theory they call bhava and prema, for me, at least from a different traditional point of view, is to understand the deeper emotion of the person, what they are saying. So I mean, this is really, all these ideas are flaring up only because the way you're you've presented these things. Otherwise, we would have not even thought of and arrived at this. But you are helping us kind of.
No,
come to
we
the
have to
conclusion.
think. It is our consciousness. Yes, we have to learn how we it all operate. So it is kind of widening the scope, and our mind can participate in it. We become not just, people of some kind of trust and belief. We also can use our minds to tune ourselves to this deeper comprehension. It's all about comprehension. Yes. Once we comprehend the whole world, all the relations, we are free. But we don't comprehend the whole. We comprehend our small context. Within our small context, we also comprehend only certain relations, and many of them in a wrong way. I mean, they have to be rectified. All right, great. We will stop here. I will not overload you with this. I can send you more information on these 8. If you want to know about their differences, they are unique. This is unique for Indian philosophical tradition, actually. Only India did this tremendous work. There is nobody else in the world who could do this, really.
Thank you so much, Vladimir.
Yes.
Thank you, Vladimir.
Thank you. All the best. See you. Bye.
Please do send that write-up where you're explaining that whole thing of that Patanjali to Bhartihari kind of movement.
Okay, I will send you. I have the whole article on it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Very interesting session. I can't say I understood all of it, but it's just moving around somewhere inside my head.
Yes, lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.